So the last time I made a how not to appeal video, I set out some basic rules to follow for a better chance of a successful appeal. This time, I'm just going to go over some appeals that did not follow these rules or were bizarre in other ways. If you haven't seen the first video and are interested, I'll link it at the end of this one. So without any further ado, here are some of the strangest and silliest appeals from the last year. So in this appeal, we have someone pretty emphatically stating that they did not harass anyone, but kind of covering their bases by saying if they did, they would never do it again, and asking for an unban. I do have to say, personally, the uwu face is probably not going to help your case. But when I took a look into this person's ban history, this was actually their 7th ban, and so I'm not sure that we can really believe that they're never going to do it again, with 6 chances under their belt. Here we have the essay, vent, rant, fight for justice type appeal that we encounter every so often. He states, "I regret nothing, you brain rot liberals. I will insult everyone again with alt accounts and dominate anyone I come across. There's no appeal you can make with your dying servers and dogshit player base who worship Uncle Dane, who mains a skillless class." Well, he does have a point there. "So much for your Patreon when it's clear you can no longer support your servers. I despise how the community treats your servers as a casual alternative. There's nothing special about it no matter how you try to keep a casual experience. You fail to grasp what made TF2 a casual experience." And I guess, I don't know, he linked a screenshot where he has a 41-7 KD and a few dominations. This one is a brief one. We have a cheating appeal, which cheating bans on Uncletopia are permanent. He says, "Hello, I'm writing to appeal my ban for cheating. I regret having cheated. It didn't make me much better at the game." This is a classic that we experienced in the previous video, just denying everything. This person says, "It banned me for language theme when I joined the server. I do not cheat and I play on these servers mostly every day. I connected to Dallas." I'm questioning why he brought up the fact that he doesn't cheat, but I informed him that it was a manual ban for using the F slur. And, you know, the classic, does he know that we have chat logs? He still tries to get away with it by saying that it was a typo and he was trying to say fat, and asks when this chat log was, which also confused me because, the timestamp is provided with the chat log. So I took a second look for further context. Maybe it was a typo, so there was some context clues there. However, what I found was him following up the comment with, "Is this my free slur?" So he didn't really have a defense after that. This doesn't actually happen that often, but this was a case of someone coming to my profile after an appeal was denied. So they commented, "One thing I want to know is how come I wasn't banned 2 months ago for my profile pic? No one had an issue with it and no one told me it offended them, so it's clear to me that this is some targeted harassment campaign. I don't even talk to people, so this is obviously done on purpose." One thing that's important to remember is that there are Uncletopia servers in Europe, Asia, America, Australia, and moderators aren't always actively on every single server that we have. So a lot of times it's just once something's reported, we act on it. So I let him know his profile was reported. This is why it's now being banned. You've been banned 4 times. And I suggested that he might get a clue for the next community. He said, "Yeah, because it's obvious this is targeted harassment. Someone could have easily told me, hey, change your profile picture, it's offensive. But instead I get shadow banned for even breathing? How fragile can you be? This is going to have some serious repercussions. I don't have problems on Skyle, I don't have problems on UGC, so why this server?" I said, "Because different servers have different rules. We don't know who you are. You aren't kind of special enough to be targeted. I'm pretty sure none of the mods are familiar with this person. You just broke our rule 4 times and we permabanned from 3. It's that simple." He stated, "They are the exact same rules, I guess, across the other communities. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I also just don't think rules are always enforced the same way across different communities. I already told you that it seems that I only have issues on Uncletopia because I'm constantly getting reported out of nowhere. How many more bans am I going to have to appeal? It's clear that this is done with malicious intent." So I let him know, "You won't have to appeal any more bans with us as you're permanently banned." And finally, after I prevented him from leaving any further comments on my profile because I could see this was just going to go on and on and on, he changed his name to Tslurtopia Mod. So, as they say, if someone reacts badly when you set a boundary, that's just more evidence that the boundary was needed in the first place. He's kind of proving our point. Here we have another appeal where they're trying to kind of skirt around the truth. They say, "Dear Uncletopia moderator, I am sincerely sorry for what I said. I believe I said the R slur as I remember being surprised that it didn't get chat filtered. I'm pretty sure I accidentally spelt it wrong and that's why it went through. This is mostly for getting around the chat filter. I promise it was unintentional. I don't have anything else to add, my B," and then, you know, a little sympathetic sad face. So I took a quick look at this particular word in his chat history, and it did not seem like an accidental or a testing of the censor. Not that I'd encourage that anyway, but yeah, there was a bit of history there, so he wasn't getting off on that one. And here we have another of the debate bro type appeals. So this person notes themselves that they have been previously banned for having a swastika in their inventory. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of this, but now they're using this Balkenkreuz and a sickle and hammer. Both are not prohibited symbols. And so to clarify, the image in the application is not a swastika, like their previous inventory item, but this symbol, and a symbol of the German Empire before the Nazis, and a symbol of the modern German armed forces. I asked if he could remove the name "The Kaiser did nothing wrong." He asks what Kaiser did wrong. I assume what did the Kaiser do wrong? He is exactly the same monarch as sits now in the UK. If I say that the king did nothing wrong, will it offend someone? And will this have to be removed? I don't see, well, God only knows what's going on with the British royals, to be honest. It's not looking good for them either. I don't see a legitimate reason to do this. This is a title whose counterpart is the king. There can be nothing offensive in this. Keeping in mind his swastika history, the phrase "the Kaiser did nothing wrong" kind of leaves you with a little bit less charity. I let him know in that case we cannot remove his ban. So this was a ban for an inappropriate item name or description. This appeal wasn't that bad, to be honest, and sometimes people misunderstand when they get a permanent ban that they think that's it, whereas we ban items until they can be changed and then we remove the ban. The main reason I included this was just the classic of referring to some kind of government policy or law, particularly when Uncletopia is international and, you know, moderators are from all over, people playing are from all over. He states, "I want to understand this amount of time. I can understand if it was up to 3 years, that's quite generous, but the time of 10 years I think is too much and I want to find out why." For the record, I did explain this to him afterwards that the ban could be removed once the item was changed. He states, "If you compare real crimes that are committed every day by people, and they can be much more brutal than item names or descriptions. For example, if you consider offenses such as trafficking in illegal substances," which he helpfully clarifies as drugs, "in light cases that's 1 to 5 years. Major trafficking is 10 to 30 years. Severe cases for life. Torture for..." I'm a little bit concerned he was looking at this. "For causing serious bodily harm from 10 to 20 years. For causing grievous bodily harm with kidnapping, life imprisonment. Child exploitation and trafficking in light cases from 10 to life imprisonment. And if the child is killed or seriously injured, life imprisonment. Once again, I plead guilty to the offense and ask that the sentence be reconsidered." Jesus, it's very legalese. The item that was item name description has already changed its description and will no longer appear on any of the servers. So if he did that, we probably removed the ban then. And here we have another debate bro type. He states, "I have been banned from Uncletopia permanently for my profile picture. I have no idea why this is, and I think it's totally unfair. The thing I've been banned for is simply a logo, an insignia. The logo is a cool skull and crossbones. This has been used in many places other than this and will be used in the future too." I agree with skull and crossbones being used, for example, by pirates, but this particular image is a little more unsanitary than that. My point being that just because this was used by a Panzer division in World War II doesn't mean I sympathize with them. I'm a fan of tanks and history. I joined the server only to be called a Nazi several times and be told to kill himself. Which obviously we don't allow people to tell other people that anyway. I was peaceful and didn't threaten or be bigoted and anti-Semitic to anyone at all. I simply joined and played the game as a medic and sniper, minding my own business until I was vote kicked. I joined later and was then told to kill myself, etc. I've changed my profile picture on Steam as people are offended by it, apparently despite having seen much worse profile pictures and language and behaviors from individuals, but I don't report them because I'm not a child. I did encourage him that, we would appreciate if he did report those things. This is something people do a lot in their appeals too. They'll say, oh, I've seen someone say or do worse. And it's kind of strange to me because a lot of our bans take place after the fact, and also sometimes we have to be made aware of certain things. Not everything is kind of tracked or logged. So either people don't make us aware, or the person was banned after the fact, but they would never know because it was after they were on the server. If you can remove the ban, I would appreciate that, as I think Uncletopia are decent servers, but if not, that's fair enough, and you can continue to censor pictures. I'm a little upset with this, as it's such a childish way to go about things. Some people are grown up enough to separate a tragedy from a picture, some are clearly not. This doesn't break any of the rules that are listed on the website and therefore shouldn't be grounds for a ban. If you consider it a hate symbol, I think that would be incorrect. So I let him know we always ban for images, symbols, and slogans that have direct association with Nazis. This particular skull and crossbones is a Nazi symbol. There are, of course, other skull and crossbones that do not look like the Nazi symbol. He said, so you are calling me a Nazi because of a picture. Surely you understand how dumb that is. So I pasted in the rule that covers this particular issue, and I clarified, I'm saying you are using a particular skull and crossbones image that is identical to the ones used by Nazis, and that we don't allow this on server. I did not call you a Nazi. He stated that someone got upset at him over a cool picture because it has connotations to people they have never met and never experienced anything to do with them. It's not a hate symbol, it's a symbol for a tank division, specifically a Nazi tank division, by the way. You wouldn't ban the Turkish flag even though they committed genocide, which is obviously just a complete false equivalency. Sometimes people question why the letters NI get flagged in our chat, and that is because some people like to type it at the end of a game when everyone is typing GGs in order to spell a certain slur. This person is one of those people. He says, what did I say that even got me banned? We were quoting Sopranos yesterday with some people in the server. Misunderstanding? So I showed the chat logs where he says, type NI in chat right now, kind of spamming it. And I said that people do this in order to bait people to spelling the N slur at the end of games. He said, it's not bait. I wanted them to see the server warning upon typing NI, as it is a new feature as far as I know. It's misleading to call it baiting, and even so, baiting should not be grounds for a ban. Show me on the rules where such an action is prohibited. This is not hate speech or something comparable to it. Taking a longer look at his chat history, he stated, who is the least likable TF2 merc and why? And also reasoning. And a few people gave their answers. He disagreed. He stated, for me, it's Demo Man, to be honest, with a reason, race. So I thought it was time to stop playing around on that one. All right, here's a particular type of ban that I unfortunately have come across several times in my experience moderating. But it's always bizarre kind of interacting with these people, and they just kind of accept it. And they talk about it in such a casual way. This person asks, damn, really? Permanent? I said, yes, we permanently banned for talking about grooming children. And he replies, fair enough, my bad, thanks. We get our appeals in many forms, sometimes through DMs, sometimes through the website, sometimes in comments on your Steam profile, or sometimes on the Discord. Though we encourage people not to do that so that there's no kind of witch hunting or unnecessary drama or harassment around someone appealing. You may notice this was deleted after evidence was provided. They state, I have been randomly banned from all Uncletopia servers and I need help with resolving this. A very quick look showed us that this was not so random and was in fact using slurs. Here we have a bit of a Storytime appeal. They say, hello, I've created this ban appeal as I would like to clear my name of what I consider to be an utterly false and libelous accusation made against my personal character. First of all, I will conclusively demonstrate ChatGPT, anyone? I never exploited in any fashion whatsoever, and from what appeared to be an exploit was merely an accidental and inexplicable set of events, of which I had no control over whatsoever. While I could certainly see how they would be misinterpreted as someone who possessed no context at all, when I proceed to give my explanation in the following paragraphs, it shall be made crystal clear that no such event was even remotely happened in the first place. While loading myself into an Uncletopia server, ready to play TF2 again, like I always do, I decided to play the engineer class. Good pick from Dane. I set about building a sentry, dispenser, and a pair of teleporters. However, I had to go AFK for a moment as the fire alarm for my apartment building went off because someone accidentally took the fire exit. This placed me away from my computer for a good hour as the fire department had to walk in to officially declare that there was no fire in the building, even though pretty much everyone understood there had been none. While outside, I listened to a good podcast, talked to a friend or two. Why is he telling me this? Talked to a friend or two and overall had a relaxing time, even though it was pretty boring. But when I came back, I immediately understood that something was wrong. There was a number of texts in the chat I had not written. My character had a sentry in the wall. And people were complaining to me. Furthermore, the character was moving without me interacting with it at all. Now, I suppose I should explain that I share a desktop computer with my pop, and he's not exactly brilliant with technology, so when I saw this, I immediately turned off my computer. Then after rebooting it, disabled the Wi-Fi. I looked up online, mouse moving, no interaction with my phone, and the symptoms seemed to point to something called an RDP server, and sure enough, I saw an RDP server installed along with my regular Windows programs. Loading up the program, I assumed there was no harm in this, the computer was not connected to the Wi-Fi. I was able to see there had been a recent connection from Nigeria. I called up my pop and asked him if he'd used the computer recently, as I never remembered installing such a thing. My suspicions were confirmed when he replied that he had received tech support from a Microsoft security agent, and that he was out getting Google Play cards in order to pay them their fee. I immediately informed him that this was a scam, that it was not real whatsoever, and told him to be more careful with who he trusts next time. To my relief, he took this in his stride and was not confused whatsoever when I told him this. Subsequently, we both had a pretty good laugh. As you can see, this has simply been an unfortunate misunderstanding, an unfortunate set of events, and an unfortunate accident. Lots of unfortunate things. I beg your pardon of my misdeeds, intentional or unintentional. That's an interesting clause to add. Although, as can clearly be seen here, they were unintentional. Okay, great. And the result of an individual from Nigeria remotely accessing my machine. P.S. I uninstalled the RDP server, so this should not happen again as far as I'm aware. So obviously I couldn't treat this with any seriousness whatsoever and stated, I too would use my time remotely accessing someone's computer using exploits in TF2. That's the most value you can get out of that situation, to be honest. Here is just another brief example of someone using fucking Supreme Court rulings in an Uncletopia appeal. Again, not really relevant to our context whatsoever. This appeal got sent to me in the form of a Discord DM. He stated, I got banned for sexual remarks towards minors, but I don't think I was even online when the ban was applied. This again is something people commonly say, but, well, as I say, bans are not usually applied while people are online. It's mostly done through reports after the fact. He says, gotcha, that makes sense. Well, is there any way it can be lifted? I didn't even know what I did to deserve the ban. I don't think I said anything sexual. So I let him know, it seems we have STV recording of you saying sex with minors several times in voice chat at the beginning of a map. He says, that'll do it. So the ban stays, I assume. So I let him know that it's one of the few things that we immediately permanently banned for. And he just thanked me for my time, I guess. So that's a little insight into some of the weird and wacky appeals over the past year. Perhaps there'll be more in another year's time to take a look at.